Hey everyone. So every single spring, there's this secret, unbelievable river of color that flows all across North America. We're talking about millions of these tiny, jewel-like birds called warblers, and they are on the move. Today, we're going to break down exactly how you can convince them to make a stop in your own backyard. Let's figure out how to put out the welcome mat for one of nature's greatest shows. Okay, so this is the question that drives bird lovers absolutely crazy, right? You see the migration reports. You hear about these huge waves of birds moving through, but you look out your window and, well, nothing. It can really feel like your yard has some kind of invisible force field around it. But what if I told you it has absolutely nothing to do with luck?
I mean, these birds are true marathoners. We're talking about little creatures that weigh less than a handful of paper clips, flying all the way from Central and South America up to the forests of Canada. It is an absolutely epic journey. And the amazing part is, it's happening right over our heads.
Yeah, we're calling this whole thing the Great Warbler Flyover. It's the reason most of us miss out on this incredible spectacle. But not anymore. Today, we're going to learn how to turn that flyover into a stopover.
That's right. The secret isn't about crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. It's actually grounded in science. If you can understand what these birds truly need during their incredible journey, you can intentionally design a space they just can't resist. It all starts by looking at your yard through their eyes.
So, let's try to put on our imaginary warbler wings for a minute. To attract them, we have to understand the pressures and the priorities they're facing in the middle of migration. And this brings us to a really key scientific idea.
This right here is the crucial point: stopover ecology. See, it's not about finding a forever home. For these birds, it's all about finding a safe, efficient place to rest and refuel for the next leg of the journey. Think of it less like a final destination and more like a critical service station on a highway. And this just illustrates the difference perfectly. A breeding habitat, that's a summer home. A warbler might spend months there raising a family. But a stopover habitat? Oh, that is a high-stakes pit stop in a race against time. They might only be in your yard for a day or two, and their entire goal is to get in, fuel up, and get out safely. So, this is basically a warbler's urgent checklist when it lands. First, gotta maximize food intake. We're talking gorging on insects to build up those fat reserves. Second, you have to minimize your risk of being eaten, which means you need good cover to hide from hawks or cats. And third, you have to do all of this while conserving as much precious energy as possible. The perfect yard? It satisfies all three of these critical needs. So how do we actually build that perfect pit stop? Well, it really just boils down to three core essentials. If you can get these three things right, you are well on your way to becoming a warbler hotspot.
And here they are. It's all about structure, food, and water. More specifically, a layered vertical structure, native plants that actually produce that food, and a good source of clean water. Let's break down each one.
First up, structure. You see, different warbler species are specialized to feed at different heights. Now here's the problem. Most suburban yards are just two layers. You've got your tall trees and you've got a lawn. We're missing the most crucial parts, the mid-story and the understory. That's the dense shrubs and small trees where the majority of warbler species actually live and find their food.
Okay, on to the second essential, native plants. Now, why native? Well, it's simple. Native plants are what native insects evolved to eat. And during migration, warblers are almost exclusively insect eaters. They need thousands of caterpillars to power their flight. And guess what? Those caterpillars only exist on native plants.
I mean, just look at these numbers. They are staggering. A single native oak tree can support over 530 different species of caterpillars. That is a 24/7 all-you-can-eat buffet for a hungry migrant. Now compare that to a non-native ornamental tree from another continent. It might support just a handful of species, if any at all.
And this chart just drives the point home. Look at that gap. Choosing a native tree isn't just a small improvement, it's literally the difference between an all-you-can-eat buffet and an empty restaurant. For a warbler on a super tight energy budget, this choice is everything.
And finally, water. It's so important. Warblers need it for drinking, of course, but also for bathing to keep their feathers in perfect flight-ready condition. The key is to make it feel safe and appealing, so that means shallow water, the sound of movement from a dripper or something to attract them, and, this is critical, placing it near some shrubs so they can quickly dart into cover if a predator shows up.
All right, so now that we know what to do, it's just as important to know what not to do. Let's really quickly cover 4 very common mistakes that can accidentally turn your yard into a total warbler-free zone.
This is the big one. Mistake number 1. Even a single mosquito spray application can just decimate the entire insect population for weeks, and it happens right when the warblers need that food the most. Seriously, going pesticide-free during migration is one of the most powerful things you can possibly do.
You know that urge to have a perfectly neat and tidy yard in early spring? Well, that can be a disaster for birds. Why? Because that leaf litter on the ground is basically a pantry. It's filled with the overwintering insects and pupae that those early migrants are desperately searching for. Cleaning it all up too early is like throwing out the entire pantry right before your dinner guests arrive.
Now, we've already touched on this, but it is so important it bears repeating. Without that crucial 3 to 10 foot layer of dense shrubs and small trees, you are missing the habitat for the vast majority of warbler species. This is the single biggest habitat gap in most yards today.
And finally, you can put out all the sunflower seeds and suet in the world, but it is not going to attract warblers. They are specialized insect hunters. They just don't eat that stuff. The only way to feed a warbler is to create a habitat that grows their food for them.
So let's say you've decided to make these changes. What can you realistically expect to see? Well, creating a habitat is definitely a journey. It's not an overnight fix, but the rewards, they start coming a lot sooner than you might think.
Here's a pretty typical progression. In the very first year, you'll likely start seeing some of the more common species making quick visits. But as your native shrubs and trees start to mature, the diversity and the numbers will grow. I mean, within 5 years, your yard can become a known, reliable, and honestly, life-saving stopover on the warbler migration highway.
And what's so powerful about all this is that it isn't just about your own enjoyment. With natural habitat shrinking everywhere, a network of thoughtfully managed backyards can provide a critical lifeline for these birds. Your small patch of land becomes part of a much, much bigger solution.
So, there you have it. You now have the scientific blueprint. It's not about luck, it's about intentionally providing for their 3 fundamental needs: structure, food, and water. The only question left is, what will your yard story be next spring? Because that river of jewels is coming, and with just a little effort, your yard can be the very oasis they've been flying all night to find.